Start with muscles of head, neck, and back. You will have a lecture in myology about the basics, introduction. We will start with muscles. For the next lesson, you will study muscles of head, neck, and back. When you describe muscle, there is also plan of muscle description, but it is very short. You should first give us the name of the muscle in English and in Latin. Certainly, you should show the muscle. You should give its origin, insertion, and action. Action of the muscle means what happens during contraction of the muscle. Yes, contraction of the muscle, it is decreasing of the length of the muscle. Usually, each muscle has a fixed point, punctum fixum, yes, where it is like that doesn't move, immobile point, and mobile point that moves. During contraction of the muscle, mobile point tries to approach fixed point. Conditionally, we consider that in most of the cases, mobile fixed point is located medially, if we talk about the trunk, or proximally, if we talk about the limbs. And a mobile point is located laterally or distally. Sometimes during physical activities, for example, when we use any sport devices, any sport equipment, punctum fixum, like fixed point, can change. Yes, if we fix upper or lower limbs to something, then vice versa, place of origin, place of insertion, what am I saying? Place of origin approaches place of insertion. Yes. So muscles of the back first are divided according to their location into two groups. These are superficial muscles, which we can see here, and deep muscles, which are located under the superficial. So we'll start with superficial muscles first. So they are trapezius muscle, musculus trapezius, then latissimus dorsi muscle, musculus latissimus dorsi, rhomboid muscles, rhomboid major and rhomboid minor, levator scapula muscle, and also under them there is serratus posterior superior muscle and serratus posterior inferior muscle. So the most superficial muscle is this one. It is trapezius muscle, musculus trapezius. Here we can see it. So all the fibers of this muscle, they are located superficially. They are not covered by any other muscle. Origin of musculus trapezius are spinous processes of all the thoracic vertebrae. Then here there is nuchal ligament, you remember, yes? That is supraspinous ligament in the cervical part of vertebral column, external occipital protuberance, and medial part of superior nuchal line. It is origin. So insertion of this muscle, like origin is broad, yes, and trapezius is due to its shape. So when bundles, fibers of the muscle, they move laterally, they converge, and they are inserted to lateral part, lateral one-third of scapular spine, to the acromion of scapula, and lateral one-third of the clavicle here. So during contraction of this muscle, scapula tries to approach vertebral column. Yes, so approaching of the scapula to the vertebral column. That is the main function of this muscle, trapezius. Under the trapezius muscle, there is latissimus dorsi muscle, musculus latissimus dorsi. It also lies superficially, except this small triangle where it is covered by inferior part of trapezius muscle. Yes, so this is latissimus dorsi muscle. This is latissimus dorsi muscle. If we translate latissimus from Latin, it means the broadest. Yes, the broadest. Dorsal means back. So latissimus dorsi muscle means the broadest muscle of the back. It originates from spinous processes of 6 lower thoracic vertebrae and all the lumbar vertebrae, median sacral crest and dorsal surface of sacrum, dorsal surface of ilium, and medial one-third of the iliac crest. And then also bundles of this muscle, they converge. They surround the chest from lateral side and then upper arm from medial side, and they are inserted to the lesser tubercle of the humerus. Are you sleeping, Akash?
No, I'm sorry.
So what is the action of the muscle? If upper arm is flexed, then it extends the upper arm, and if it is abducted, then it causes adduction and also medial rotation, pronation of the upper arm. So these are the main functions of latissimus dorsi muscle, broadest muscle of the back. Then, so these two are they comprise the first layer of muscles of the back. Yes. Under this, under trapezius and latissimus dorsi muscle, there are rhomboid muscles. Here we can see rhomboid muscles. These are also rhomboid muscles. In some books and in some people, actually, there is only one rhomboid muscle, and it originates from two, like spinous processes of two lower cervical vertebrae, and first four thoracic, yes, spinous processes, and then bundles, they move laterally and downward, and they are inserted to the medial margin of scapula, rhomboid muscle. In the other books, it's written that there are two muscles. There is rhomboid major and rhomboid minor. So rhomboid minor muscle is above, and its origin is from spinous processes of the two lower cervical vertebrae, and its insertion is to medial margin of scapula above the scapular spine. And for rhomboid major muscle, its origin is from the spinous processes of the first four thoracic vertebrae, and then insertion is to medial margin of scapula below the scapular spine. Anyway, both of these muscles, during contraction of both of these muscles, scapula is also pulled towards the vertebral column. Okay. So then there is also levator scapular muscle, musculus levator scapula. It originates from transverse process of the third, I think. I'm not sure, we'll check. Sorry, yes. Third cervical vertebra, and then it goes downward, and it is inserted to the medial angle of scapula. And from its name, it's clear that it elevates the scapula, yes, and it also slightly rotates the scapula around vertical axis, so it rotates it laterally. Okay. There are two more muscles. It is musculus serratus posterior superior and musculus serratus posterior inferior muscle. When we studied joints of skull, we were saying that there are three types of sutures. Yes? What are these three types of sutures, Akash?
Sagittal suture, frontal sutures.
No, these are names. I need types.
Membranous sutures.
No. It is, there are serrate sutures, and there are squamous sutures, and there are plain sutures, yes? And when we were talking about serrate sutures, we were saying that they are teeth-like, yes? Like teeth-like margin, like, what is it? Like margin that has a teeth-like shape. Yes, it enters between these teeth-like projections of the other margin, yes? And that is named serrate suture. So this muscle is named also serrate because it has teeth-like projections, yes? So first, musculus serratus posterior superior, serrate posterior superior muscle. It originates from spinous processes of two lower cervical vertebrae and two upper thoracic vertebrae. And then bundles, they move downward and laterally, and they are inserted to the angles of the ribs from the second to the fifth. From the second to the fifth. So here I think we can see these fibers. So the action of this muscle is to elevate the ribs. So this muscle is additional accessory muscle of respiration. It participates only in the forced inspiration, yes. When we want to inhale very big amount of air, then this muscle can also participate. Yes, so when we just breathe calmly, then muscles of the chest work and diaphragm, so this muscle doesn't participate. Then musculus serratus posterior inferior muscle, serratus posterior inferior muscle, it originates from spinous processes of two lower thoracic vertebrae and two upper lumbar vertebrae, and then bundles move upward, and they are inserted to angles of the ribs from the 9th to the 12th. And like direction of fibers for serratus posterior superior muscle, it is laterally and downward. Yes, so they elevate the ribs. Direction of fibers for serratus posterior inferior muscle is laterally and upward. That's why during contraction they depress the ribs. So they also participate in forced exhalation. Yeah, during exhalation. Yes, when we remove air from the lungs. Okay, so these were superficial muscles of the back. Under the superficial muscles, there are deep muscles, which we cannot see here. Could you please give it to me? Okay. This one. I need this. So look, deep muscles of the back, they lie under the superficial muscles. And first, the most superficial of the deep muscles of the back, it is here we can see erector spinae muscle, musculus erector spina. Then under it, there is transversus spinalis muscle, here we can see it from the other side. And then there are very small muscles such as interspinous muscles and intertransverse muscles and so on. So first we will talk about erector spinae muscle, musculus erector spina. So from the name it's clear, yes, that the main action of this muscle is to keep our body straight, yes. And it is especially well developed in humans because due to our bipedalism, like we stand on two legs, we should keep our body straight. In animals which work on four legs, it's not so well developed, and there is a very high load onto this muscle. So here it is very big muscle, and it consists of three parts, three tracts. So the most lateral tract, it is, here we can see it, iliocostalis muscle, iliocostal muscle, musculus iliocostalis. Then the middle one, it is longissimus muscle, and the most medial is spinalis muscle, yes, spinalis muscle, this one. So we'll start from iliocostal muscle. From its name, it's clear that it originates from the ilium, and then it is inserted to the ribs. Okay, so and topographically, it is divided into three parts. There is iliocostal muscle, lumbar iliocostal muscle, musculus iliocostalis lumborum, thoracic, musculus iliocostalis thoracis, and there is cervical muscle, musculus iliocostalis cervicis. So first, iliocostalis lumborum. Yes, it originates from dorsal surface of the ilium and from medial 1/3 of the iliac crest, and then it goes upward, and it is inserted to 6 lower ribs at their angles. Yes, at their angles. So then, thoracic iliocostal muscle originates from 6 lower ribs medially from the angles, so medially from the place of insertion of iliocostalis muscle, and it is inserted to 6 upper ribs at their angles. And then iliocostalis cervical muscle originates from 6 upper ribs medially from their angles, and it is inserted to transverse processes of cervical vertebrae, from the 3rd to the 6th. So all of these muscles, they appeared, yes, there is right and left. So we have to know what happens during unilateral contraction and bilateral contraction. So unilateral contraction is when only one, like right or left muscle contracts, yes? During unilateral contraction of this muscle, lateral flexion of the trunk takes place, and also depression of the ribs. And during bilateral contraction, extension of vertebral column occurs. Extension. And as part of the erector spinae muscle, it keeps our body straight. Then this middle part, it is longissimus muscle, musculus longissimus. Also, if to translate it from Latin, like this postfix, yes, what is the postfix? Issimus, it means the most. Yes, so longissimus muscle means the longest muscle, and it also has 3 parts. There is musculus longissimus lumbar, thoracic, and cervical. And it also, like erector spinae muscle, all the bundles of erector spinae muscle, they originate from dorsal surface of ilium and dorsal surface of sacrum and medial 1/3 of iliac crest, and then they move upward and they are inserted to lumbar part first is inserted to transverse processes of lumbar vertebrae, and then thoracic part goes from transverse processes of lumbar vertebrae to transverse processes of thoracic vertebrae, and cervical from thoracic to cervical vertebrae. And then the most medial part is spinalis muscle, musculus spinalis. It also has 3 parts, but it is thoracic, cervical, and musculus spinalis capitis, so that one that belongs to the head. And it is stretched between spinous processes. So spinalis thoracic spinalis muscle. It has again the same origin with the rectus spinae muscle, with the whole rectus spinae muscle, and then it is inserted with spinous process of thoracic vertebrae. Then cervical spinalis muscle is between spinous processes of thoracic vertebrae and cervical vertebrae, and then this of the head between spinous processes of cervical vertebrae and external occipital protuberance and superior nuchal line. So during contraction of this muscle as a whole, yes, or rectus spinae muscle, extension of the vertebral column occurs. Okay, and so it was the largest, yes, it was the largest muscle and the most superficial of the muscles of the back. Then under it there is transversus spinalis muscle, musculus transversus spinalis. From its name, it's clear that bundles of muscle, they originate from transverse processes. I don't understand. Are you recording me or you are recording what is here?
Both
Me,
of
it's certainly I'm honored, but please. What transversus spinalis muscle? It originates from transverse processes, and then it is inserted to spinous processes of vertebrae above. And distance between origin and insertion is different. And according to the distance, the transversus spinalis muscle is divided into three parts. There is semispinalis muscle, multifidi muscle, and rotatus muscle. So in case of semispinalis muscle, distance between origin and insertion is equal to 3 to 4 vertebrae. So it is the longest. Then multifidi muscle, the distance is about 2 vertebrae. And for rotator muscles, they can be short and long. Rotator muscles, if short rotator muscles, then insertion is located right above. So it is inserted to the adjacent vertebra that is located above. And in case of long rotator muscles, then distance is about 1 vertebra. So it overlaps 1 vertebra and inserted to spinous process. So action is again extension of vertebral column, yes. And in case of unilateral contraction, especially if it is unilateral contraction of rotator muscles, then it causes like torsion of vertebral column, yes. So rotation to the right and to the left. And then under these muscles, there are very short muscles, interspinous muscles, which are stretched between spinous processes of adjacent vertebrae, and contraction of them causes extension of vertebral column. And there are intertransverse muscles, which are stretched between transverse processes of adjacent vertebrae, and their contraction causes lateral flexion. And also, in some books, it will be written that suboccipital muscles, they also belong to muscles of the back. In some books, it's written that they belong to muscles of the neck. For you, it doesn't matter because in both cases, it is your whole body, yes? So here, in suboccipital muscles, there are 4 muscles. There is musculus rectus capitis posterior minor, musculus rectus capitis posterior major, musculus obliquus capitis inferior, and musculus obliquus capitis superior. So first, musculus rectus capitis posterior minor. Could you please open the window? Well, musculus obliquus capitis posterior minor originates from posterior tubercle of the atlas, and then it goes upward, and it is inserted to medial half of superior nuchal line. And musculus rectus capitis posterior major, it originates from spinous process of the axis, and it is inserted to lateral half of superior nuchal line. Both of these muscles, they cause extension of the head, yes, in atlanto-occipital joint. Musculus obliquus capitis inferior. Yes, it originates from the spinous process of the axis, and it is inserted to the transverse process of the atlas. And musculus obliquus capitis superior originates from transverse process of the atlas, and then it is inserted to lateral half of superior nuchal line, together with musculus rectus capitis posterior major. So contraction of these muscles causes lateral flexion, yes, in also atlanto-occipital joints. So these were muscles of the back. Now, muscles of the neck. Yeah, and this one also is. So muscles of the neck are also divided. So muscles of the neck, they are also divided into two groups, superficial and deep. So first, the most superficial muscle, it is musculus platysma. Here we can see it, musculus platysma. So okay, first you have to know what are the boundaries of the neck. So neck, inferior boundary of the neck, passes through the clavicles, anteriorly and jugular notch of sternum, and posteriorly it is horizontal line that corresponds to the spinous process of the seventh cervical vertebra. Superiorly, it is inferior margin of the mandible, and then superior line and external occipital protuberance, posteriorly. That is neck. So musculus platysma, it occupies nearly the whole neck region, anteriorly at least. So it originates from pectoral fascia. So what is fascia? Yes, fascia. What is fascia?
Fascia is aponeurosis of a tendon.
No, fascia it is connective tissue membrane. Yes, of muscle or group of muscles or the organ. So pectoral fascia covers pectoralis major muscle. This pectoralis major muscle belongs to muscles of the chest. We'll study it later. So pectoralis fascia, and also from the clavicle, and then bundles of this muscle. They move upward, and they are inserted to inferior margin of the mandible. So this platysma muscle, потише, пожалуйста, товарищи. This platysma muscle is present everywhere in the anterior regions of the neck, except small jugular triangle that is located above the jugular notch. Yes, so jugular notch and anterior margins of this platysma muscle, they form this jugular triangle. In all the other places, platysma muscle is present. Okay, so it is the most superficial. The main action of this muscle is to prevent superficial veins of the neck from the compression. Then, under this platysma muscle, there is the second muscle. It is sternocleidomastoid muscle. Sternocleidomastoid muscle. So here we can see it. By the way, in some books you will also find information that trapezius muscle also belongs to muscle of the neck. Actually, if we look, we will see that trapezius muscle is located at the same time in two regions. Yes, so its larger part is located in the back region, and its smaller part is located in the neck region. So we will consider that it is muscle of the back. Okay, so sternocleidomastoid muscle, musculus sternocleidomastoidus. Musculus sternocleidomastoidus. When you also start reading classification of muscles and structure of muscles, you will see that each muscle has a head, it's a place from where it originates, then it continues to muscular belly, and then usually it is inserted to a bone by tendon in most of cases. Some muscles may have two heads or two bellies. Yes, so this muscle, sternocleidomastoid muscle, has two heads. Its medial head originates from jugular notch of sternum, and its lateral head originates from medial end of the clavicle. And then these two ends, they join together, and they are inserted to mastoid process of the temporal bone. So that's it. That's it. Bilateral contraction of this muscle, it extends the head, yes, and unilateral contraction does something else. Like it turns the head to the same side, yes, to the same side, and face, and yes, and face to the other side, face to the other side. Okay, that is the action of sternocleidomastoid muscle. Okay, fine. So these were the most superficial muscles. Then under sternocleidomastoid muscles, there are muscles which are attached to the hyoid bone. Here we can see hyoid bone. This is hyoid bone. So 4 muscles, they are located above the hyoid bone. That's why they are named suprahyoid muscles. Yes, supra means above. 4 muscles are located below the hyoid bone, so they are named infrahyoid muscles. We'll start with suprahyoid. Okay, so yes, I told you they are 4. So the first one is stylohyoid muscle, musculus stylohyoidus. Here you can see it. So stylohyoid muscle, and here you also can see it. Yes, this one. So stylohyoid muscle originates from styloid process of the temporal bone. And then it is inserted to the hyoid bone, the musculus stylohyoidus. Action of all the muscles of the which are located above the hyoid bone, action of all the suprahyoid muscles is elevation of the hyoid bone. So during contraction, they pull hyoid bone upward. The next is digastric muscle, musculus digastricus. Here we can see it also. So digastric muscle is that muscle that has 2 bellies. Yes, so if sternocleidomastoid muscle had 2 heads, digastric muscle has 2 bellies, anterior and posterior. Here we also can see it. This is digastric muscle. So posterior belly of the digastric muscle originates from mastoid notch of temporal bone, and anterior belly originates from digastric fossa of the mandible that is located on the internal surface of the body of the mandible. And so both of these bellies, they are inserted to the hyoid bone. And the action is again elevation of the hyoid bone. Yes. So then there is mylohyoid muscle, musculus mylohyoidus. So this is the largest muscle. Here it is, mylohyoid muscle. It originates from mylohyoid line of the mandible, and then mylohyoid line is also located on the internal surface of the body of the mandible, yes, and then bundles, these fibers of this muscle, they move medially and downward, and part of the fibers is inserted to the hyoid bone, and then the most part of the fibers is inserted to muscle, to opposite muscle, like right to left, yes, and they form median raphe, like suture, median suture of the neck. Here it is. The action of this muscle is also to pull hyoid bone upward, and this mylohyoid muscle, it forms floor of the oral cavity, inferior wall of the oral cavity. And one more suprahyoid muscle, it is geniohyoid muscle, musculus geniohyoidus. It originates from mental spine of the mandible, and it is inserted to the hyoid bone. And also it elevates hyoid bone. So they are 4 here. Infrahyoid muscle, they are also 4. These are omohyoid muscle, and then sternohyoid muscle, sternothyroid muscle, and thyrohyoid muscle. All of them except sternothyroid muscle, they pull hyoid bone downward. Yes. So omohyoid muscle, musculus omohyoidus, also has 2 bellies. But if in digastric muscle they were posterior and anterior bellies, yes, here in the omohyoid muscle they are inferior and superior. Junction between superior and inferior bellies of omohyoid muscle is located in a place of decussation with sternocleidomastoid muscle. So here it's close, we do not see it. Is there another? Okay, then it will have to be. Okay. No, just there is another such preparation without sternocleidomastoid or diagram, and then you will see that here there is tendon under the sternocleidomastoid muscle. So inferior belly of omohyoid muscle originates from superior margin of scapula, close to its close to the scapular notch, yes, and then it moves medially and upward, and in a place where it is decusated by the sternocleidomastoid muscle, it continues to the tendon, then tendon again continues to the superior belly of omohyoid muscle, and it is inserted to the hyoid bone. So the action of the muscle is to pull hyoid bone downward. Sternohyoid muscle, musculus sternohyoidus, originates from jugular notch of sternum and anterior surface of manubrium of sternum, and it is inserted also to the hyoid bone. Sternothyroid muscle originates from jugular notch of sternum, and it is inserted to the oblique line on the thyroid cartilage of the larynx, and thyrohyoid muscle originates from oblique line of the thyroid cartilage of larynx, and it is inserted to the hyoid bone. So the action of the sternothyroid muscle is to pull thyroid cartilage downward. Yes, no, it's obviously. And all the other muscles, they depress the hyoid bone. Okay, and now the most interesting, yes? So now, I have already told you boundaries of the neck, and here within the neck region there are actually 4 more regions. We are interested in anterior or medial and lateral cervical regions. So they are separated from each other by means of sternocleidomastoid muscle. So anterior cervical region is located in front of the anterior margin of sternocleidomastoid muscle, and lateral cervical region is located behind the posterior margin of sternocleidomastoid muscle. Here, in the anterior cervical region, 2 more regions are distinguished. Suprahyoid region, that is above the hyoid bone, and infrahyoid region, that is below the hyoid bone. In each of these regions, suprahyoid, infrahyoid, and also lateral cervical region, there are triangles of the neck. Could you please give me the paper? My paper, it is under the book. Yes, thank you. It's very old paper. Okay. So triangles of the neck. So here, first in suprahyoid region, there are 3 triangles. First of all, and they are formed by these supra and infrahyoid muscles. So first triangle, it is submandibular triangle, trigonum submandibulare. It is paired triangle, so there is right and left, yes? So it is bounded by posterior and anterior bellies of digastric muscle and inferior margin of the mandible. So that's it, submandibular triangle. It contains submandibular salivary gland. Then there is unpaired submental triangle, trigonum submentale. It is unpaired, it is located in the middle. Here we can see it. So it is bounded from the right and from the left by anterior bellies of digastric muscle and inferiorly by the hyoid bone. Here we also can see it. That's it. Submental triangle. It contains submental lymph nodes. And in suprahyoid region, there is one more very small but very important triangle. Yes, it is a lingual triangle or Pirogov triangle. Да. Nikolai Ivanovich Pirogov is a great Russian surgeon. No, it's not. It's the first probably time when you meet him, but not the last. So lingual triangle is named lingual
You have to remember
because
his name. You have to remember his
yes,
name.
you have to remember his name, date of birth, date of death, everything about Nikolai Ivanovich Pirogov. Yes. Okay, so lingual triangle is a small triangle where lingual artery that supplies the tongue is located very superficially. That's why when we plan any surgery, like a surgery of removal of the tongue, we first need to ligate, yes, to ligate lingual artery, to tie a knot on the lingual artery. And we find it in the lingual triangle. Boundaries of lingual triangle are the following. So anteriorly it is posterior margin of mylohyoid muscle, posteriorly it is posterior belly of digastric muscle, and above it is hypoglossal nerve. Hypoglossal nerve. So here we can see posterior belly of digastric muscle. Yes. Here we can see hypoglossal. If we try, we'll see. Okay, yes, here we can see hypoglossal nerve. This one, yes? And here we can see lingual artery. It passes in the lingual triangle. Lingual artery. Arteria lingualis. Так, окей, this is lingual triangle. In infrahyoid